Guys, thanks for coming. First, I'd like to thank our fans and most importantly, the student body. Someone told me the second best opening day turnout from everything from the skull session, which kind of took me aback a little bit. First time that was not here 20 some years ago when I was here, so that was an incredible moment. And then also a pregame tradition, which I think is going to, I hope, catches on a little bit with Coach Nick and the student body getting involved in the quick cows. What I like to do instead of just up here babbling, since this is our first post-game press conference, is kind of give you some information I think is important. Share with you about why we won or why we had a bad day. But we have a very clear plan to win here, and number one is the plan to win and great defense. Certainly I would not say we played great defense. However, we played 3 quarters of very good defense. Gave up 303 yards passing, but 138 was in the last 3 quarters. And we held it to -1 yards rushing, which is usually come out on the plus side in a game like that. Turnovers, we were +3, which is a key time-tested stat. We had 2 picks and a fumble with 0 on offense. Red zone, we're 5 of 7, very disappointing. That was probably black mark on the game for us as an offense. Was really the most disappointing one was the 1-yard line shot that we can't allow happen. Miami was 1 of 2. We spent a lot of time preparing in the red zone. And then kicking game, we hit all 8 of our goals that we have, and we also scored a touchdown. Third downs, these are just stats that I look at and that I basically handled with the team meeting yesterday. Ohio State, we were 52% on third downs. Miami was 26%. Field position, we were at 36 is where our average drive started, which is fairly positive. And Miami started at 22. That's taken after all kicks, all coverage units. And we gave up 0 return yards on the punt and down 2 inside the 10-yard line on punts, but we should have downed 4. A couple other notes. We grade our kids out on champions each week. What I'll do is I'll give you the champions. I'll go through plan to win, give you champions, give a couple thoughts, and then discuss the opposing team, then we'll answer any questions for you. Champions Club, those are the guys that graded out winning efforts. Brad Roby was also our defensive player of the game by the coaching staff. What we do on the defensive backs is how many opportunities you have to make a play, and he had an incredible amount, 30 opportunities to make a play in that kind of game where they throw it all over the place. He was 25 of 30 for 83%. And a defensive back, you ask them to grade out a winner, you need to be at least 80%. So point of attack, if you're a defensive back and it's an inside run, if you're not point of attack, that's rather obvious. So anytime a defensive back has an opportunity to make a play, that's obviously much more significant grade than if it's just an inside run. So he was 83%, very good. 5 tackles, so 1 assist, 3 pass broken up, 1 fumble recovery. And our defensive staff does production points like most defensive staffs, and he had 30, which is 30 production points, which was just a very good day for a corner. Christian Bryant played excellent, 96% grade out, 88% point of attack, 7 tackles, 1 assist, 1 extra effort, 1 PBU, 17 production points. And Jerry will have these for you. Travis Howard, graded 90%, which is our 2 corners graded out against the throwing outfit, pretty good. 18 of 22 on make a play, that's 22 opportunities. He was point of attack. He made the play 18 times. 2 tackles, 1 assist, 2 interceptions, and a pass broken up. On offense, the champions were Andrew Norwell, graded out a champion, 5 knockdowns, 2 pancakes, no pressures or sacks. He's really, Coach Warner is very high on him and says he's one of the most improved players on our team. Jack Muhart, 3 knockdowns, very physical, played very good. Our quarterback, who was also the offensive player of the game, set a Ohio State record for a quarterback in rushing yards, and then was also can play a lot better, but managed us through some tough situations. Kenny Guyton came in and did well. His nickname from this point forward is Coach Guyton. So he does some things. He made a couple of checks out there that really, and he does it without the reps. So a lot of his things are mental reps. So really appreciate Kenny Guyton. Did a nice job. Carlos Hyde graded out a champion, 93% grade out, which is very high. 70% of his yards were after contact, 58 yards after contact of his 82. Zach Boren graded out a champion, 81%. That's his grade. And he scored his first touchdown, rushing touchdown, I believe, of his career. Philly Brown graded out 81% in the wide receiver crew. He was 6 of 8 make play, 7 catches, a career high for him, 87 yards. Devin Smith also graded out a champion, which he's come a long way. If you told me after our first week of spring practice he graded champion our first game, we'd have a little conversation about that. But I'm really proud of him. He's done a nice job and has improved. So that's our offense. Kicking, special mentions where Jamal Marcus played well. Our kicker, Drew Basil, did a heck of a job. Really unnoticed, but I asked him to kick him out of the end zone. He did every time. Then I asked him to place it inside the 5, and he did that every time. So talking about place kicks on the kickoffs. Ben Buchanan averaged over 42, and Christian Bryant gave great effort. Our special teams player of the week was Adam Griffin. Was involved in every special teams, kind of unsung hero for us, and I love the guy. He goes real hard and tries real hard. With that said, I'll talk briefly about our opponent. Proud of the way our guys played. Very disappointed in the first quarter, but I'm glad after you evaluate it now, I'm very glad that happened. That gives us an opportunity to coach very, very hard and get some things corrected. Whole different animal coming in here this week. I know this team, I know this coach, I know this coaching staff, and we have great respect for everything they've done. Led the defense in the conference the last few years. They have very good players, 300-pound plus defensive tacklers, 2 very athletic defensive ends. It's what you'd imagine out of Central Florida. On offense, they just pounded Akron a couple weeks ago, or I guess it was last week, and just ran power downhill at them, and with a big athletic quarterback that also threw the ball very well. His stats were really good. You guys can find that out. But we to say that we don't have a lot of respect for Central Florida would be nonsense. The good thing is nowadays our players have already seen the film, so they already get a little touch of what's going on with all these iPads floating around here now. They have plenty of film to watch, and you can get up here and babble all you want, but if they see it on film that they're getting ready to go play against, then this will be a war. This will be something we have to be ready for, and we will. So with that said, I'll answer any questions for you.
Open it up front, Austin.
Austin Ward, ESPN.com. Urban, you said after the game, 14 of 24 for Braxton wasn't ideally what you wanted. When you looked at the film, did you find a pattern with the incompletions or something that concerned you, a recurring pattern?
Well, we had, I think, 2 drop balls right off the top of my head, Zach Bourne and Evan Spencer. I saw him jerk a couple passes, and that's something, when he has a nice stroke, he's as good a passer as I've ever seen. When a guy pops open, he wants to get it there so fast, his fundamentals kind of get away from him. One time he scrambled out of a pocket instead of hanging in there with a little option route we ran to Philly Brown. So he's going through some growing pains, and we have to get him through those growing pains real fast because we expect more out of our quarterback.
Bill, front.
Bill Rabinowitz, Columbus Dispatch. You practiced for months, you had a pretty good sense of your team, but you don't really get a chance until you play somebody else in the stadium and all that. What do you know now about your team that you didn't know before Saturday?
A bunch of good players that try real hard and play real hard. And, I kind of anticipated and hoped that, coming from a school like Ohio State and get these quality guys that we have. So the issues were not play hard or try hard. If it is this, it would be not a good press conference today. Would have been an ugly team meeting, and it wasn't. We just got to coach better. We got to adjust a little better, and the players got to adjust a little bit too. I mean, so much was new. I'm so glad that I can't stand first games because where do we eat? Are we going to the golf course? What shoes do we wear? What about this? Can I wear this? What about a visor? What about my parents' tickets for instead of getting locked in on the game? And also with a new bunch of coaches, I mean, there's some I don't want to say issues because there were no issues at all, but just growing pains as a staff that we have to get fixed. So very pleased. At the end of the day, I'm pleased with what happened. I'm pleased that we got thrown around a little bit in the first quarter. We're actually losing in our home state in the first quarter. And I didn't like it at the time, but now that you look back, it gives, I think everybody got kind of hit in the face a little bit. Responded well.
Back middle left, Doug.
Doug Sells, ABC6. Coach, obviously you've been very candid in your assessments and how that's motivated your guys. How soon after Devin Smith made that catch do you think he was thinking, I wonder where that rates on Coach's wow factor scale?
The second after it happened, a big smile on his face. He just keeps walking by me waiting for me to say, hey, great catch, and just walk away.
Far left, Lori.
Lori Schmidt, 97.1 fan. Coach, I've heard 3 analysts or reporters bring up Braxton Miller's name in conjunction with the Heisman.
Oh, gosh.
Given how early it is in the season, how comfortable are you with the idea that he'd be capable of that type of year?
Well, that's one of the things that as we get to know each other, when these kids come here, they're worried about making it. Tuesday's practice is really, really hard. So any thoughts of anything other than that, then practice will have to make them harder. So there'll be no discussion about that. I certainly think he's one of those freaks of nature that has a lot of ability, and great things can happen to him, but that's not, there won't be no billboards posted anywhere, anything like that.
Far left, Dan.
Daniel from the Lantern. You mentioned how the 1 yard line stuff just wasn't acceptable. Are you going to try anything different in your goal line package to try to make that better?
Yeah, well, that was, once again, absolute. I mean, is that what you can expect the rest of you on the 1 yard line? We'll do some things different, but that was a tempo setter, that was a timeout, we called them together, and I wanted to see something happen, and we should have scored. We missed a block. The offensive line can't miss a block down there, so to answer your question, will we change things up down there? Absolutely. Will there be times we have to turn around, hand the ball to your tailback, and get 1 yard? A lot, yes. That was the most disappointing point of the whole day, and we'll get that fixed.
Front, Rusty.
Rusty Miller, AP. John Simon just said a little while ago, and I think most captains say this, well, this team's mostly self-motivated. I don't know what, without having you rank other teams that you've had, is this team relatively good at self-motivating, or is this just a typical?
It's just one game. I think that's to be determined.
But even in the weeks leading up to it in camp, I mean, is it say anything you had to pull guys aside and inspire them or say anything to them, or?
Just not prepared to. I don't want to tag them as a very motivated team because we got a bunch of games left. So I think I've seen very, not to discount your question or the validity of what John Simon says. I've seen John Simon's about self-motivated guys that have been around. We've got a bunch of guys that are very self-motivated. When you start talking about a team that's, you're talking about a bunch of players now. So it remains to be seen. I do see a lot of very self-motivated players.
Just as a follow-up, a few weeks ago, you said that you've never had a team that wasn't playing for a championship in November, and you didn't know exactly what you might have to do later. Would you have to create your own bowl game, or do you think that is where you might be leaning, that you might have to in the future? That this is something you might...
Once again, Tuesday's practice against Miami is going to be really hard inside drill. Let's try not to look too far forward. If it's a team that we have to make it the bowl game or make it some bowl or wear a special shirt, we'll certainly do that. I'm hoping that doesn't work out of that, but we'll see.
Middle left, David.
Dave Briggs, Toledo Blade. You mentioned you're kind of venturing into the unknown with the new offensive staff. How did that first trial run go? What are maybe some of the concerns that remain? And I guess how did that go?
Went pretty good. We didn't have the substitution. I don't think we had maybe one offensive penalty for the day, which for new staff, and an up-tempo. We're all signals now. There's no, other than the mini huddles we do on the short yardage, and that won't just be short yardage, we'll do that other times. But I think Tom Herman and the coaching staff did a very good job. I mean, it's completely, you talk about 180, it's completely different. The tempo, the offensive line, did not have I think we had one false start, and that's pretty good when you're changing up cadence and we're doing all the different variety of things we've done. So I'm very pleased. Long way to go, but very pleased with the first game.
Middle back, Clay.
How many snaps for Nathan, and how did he tolerate that and really get equal or more time?
I want to say we're 30 snaps. I don't have that in front of me. We were dropping him a lot, and I asked the same question. I didn't expect him to play that much, but they gave us a certain personnel grouping where we just weren't comfortable with Noah Spence going there doing as much dropping because we were dropping 8 some, and he was better at that. So he played a little bit more. He was very sore yesterday, and I'll find out more tomorrow. They're off today. I'll see him today, but I would anticipate that the rust is officially knocked off and we'll be ready to go.
Middle.
He was in a good mindset after that game.
This is hard to pound in the post game. It's still pounding.
Is that right?
Middle, Doug.
Urban, just with obviously the big play capabilities of this offense in the second quarter when you guys got going, you did make a lot of big plays. Braxton had the big run. Did those come out of the offense the way you wanted it to? Like just in terms of obviously when you scheme it up, you're anticipating some of those, I guess. Did you get the big plays you wanted from the offense on Saturday?
We did once we changed formations. The team we played did a very good job. We have a base formation that we use, and we have a lot of different answers out of it. They defended it pretty good. So someone asked me the question about how our staff responded. We went fairly quickly to another, and that's called adjusting. When you hear what adjustments a team makes, we could probably maybe done a little faster, but they defended a certain formation pretty well, and they defended our base plays pretty well. So they did a good job scouting our offense for the last 10 months. And so you have to have counter options, and we went to them fairly quickly. And the big hits we had were off a different set, different formations.
Is there a number of big plays you expect each week?
I don't have a set number, but we really try to evaluate who can make a big play. I ask the question all the time: who can physically score a touchdown? And I'm not saying if the other guy falls down, but who can, I didn't know Devin Smith could. I have not seen it. Now I know he can. And I'm not talking about the one against Wisconsin where a guy scrambles around, catches and falls down. I mean, go make a touchdown. I think Carlos Hyde can. I think Braxton Miller can. And to see Evan Spencer go up, we had to see him do that. So we're trying to still figure out who can score a touchdown, not who can score, but who can go make a touchdown. And that's what we're trying to still figure out. I think the good news is I think we got a couple guys who can do that.
Tim?
Tim May, Columbus Dispatch. Urban, what was Devin not doing in the spring and maybe even in preseason that had you have doubts about him? And then number two, can a play like that totally change your way of thinking?
Absolutely. I've never been down on Devin at all. He plays like a very young player that just had a new offense thrown in his lap. And great kid to coach. He was also running track in the spring, if you remember, so we didn't have him all the time. And when we got him, playing receiver in this offense is real. I mean, it's not one of those, hey, you stand out there and we'll flip you the ball once in a while. You are very involved in blocking. All those perimeter runs where Braxton Miller takes it 60 yards and no one touches his jersey, there's something other than Braxton Miller running down the field. There's a bunch of guys, 10 other guys have to grade out a winner to have that happen. So playing receiver in this offense, that's a grown man's job. And he's really coming on. And to answer your question, Tim, I think we all know the answer to that, is ignition plays in young players' careers that make them give that confidence. Nothing greater than confidence, nothing worse than false confidence with an athlete. And I think we all now, I know I have confidence in him, he's good, but more importantly, he's got some confidence in himself.
Can I have one last follow, or then I'll ask another one in a little while. The switch to the 1,003 ball, was that your call? I mean, y'all, they've always played with that little fatter ball. Now what was the thinking, I guess, behind that?
Our offense coordinator and quarterback says they get to choose whatever ball they want.
Yeah. But they like because it's easier to grip, or what's the thinking there? Do you know?
I can't remember, I think so. I think the laces there's something about the laces, but that was back early spring, so I can't remember. Conversation.
Very middle. Fawad?
Coach, Fawad Seymour Lantern. Early on, there were some questions about the wide receivers. How would you grade their performance as a whole?
I'd say B. Good effort. Good effort. Some good efforts blocking downfield. Still had some missed assignments and some things that we have to get better at. But a good solid B.
Middle. Doug?
You talked about just smoothing things out with the staff and everything in the first game. Can you just give like a little snapshot of when you're up tempo like that, what it is like getting a play in, what those couple seconds are? What do you guys do as a staff to find a play and get it in?
Well, you got to get the personnel grouping in. The offense coordinator Tom Herman calls a play. Ed Warner. We don't have much conversation during a series. It's all, when the defense is on the field, that's when I'll ask, give me the script for the next series. I want to know the next 5 plays. What are we thinking? And he'll start rattling off. I'll say, no, let's go here. Let's go here. Let's stay out of that formation, which we did, and we got going. So the conversation is give me whatever personnel grouping and the play. And then I'm really the only one talking to Tom and say, run the counter, run the power, run the 3-level pass, take the shot, those type of things. And so that's the kind of communication, but it's real fast. That's as fast as I've ever been a part of.
And you and Tom, that's just constant. I would imagine working together for the first time, that is something that takes some time to get used to.
We did it we did a lot of that in training camp, where he was on the headsets and I'd stand right next to him and say, I'm not going to physically call a play. I'm going to say, you got to think a lot alike, like take the shot. That means we should know what that shot is, run the reverse. So it went very good for the first time.
Far left, Lori.
Coach, how would you grade Braxton's ability to pitch out on the option, both to read that and execute it?
Very good. Much better to his right. On his left, he brings it up from down here a little bit. He's got it right in here. But very good. He's kind of a natural guy at that. He's an athlete.
Back Mark.
Mark Inch, WTWWSM Lima. Jordan Hall, in terms of the comeback trail, where is he? Are you going to maybe give him a couple snaps this week just to kind of get the rust off, or is he completely out for this week?
I don't think he's available this week. I'll know more today. But he's got that look in his face like he's dying to get out there, and I think he might practice this week. So I'll let you know. And I should know that. And I apologize, I don't.
Is Bennett, you think Bennett will be back?
Bennett was all ready to go and re-injured his groin in our pregame. So I don't know. We need him too. We need to get a little rotation. Those young defensive linemen did a good job. I think we played 14 true freshmen.
Yeah.
Is that right, Jerry?
Yes, that's
Played
correct.
14 true freshmen. Usually D linemen don't play as a true freshman. But that's the confidence we have in those guys. Tommy Shutt played with Dolphus Washington in a sack and played. Noah played, had a sack. And Pittman did not play. But that's unusual. 3 freshmen, true freshmen, defensive linemen playing. And they played well.
Front, Austin.
I don't think Coach Ringgold said that Bellamy might be able to return at some point, that you guys would be able, no? What happened? Is there anything you could shed some light on what
It
happened?
was a personal, nothing with Ohio State, nothing with football, nothing with academics. He just lost his love of the game of football, didn't want to play anymore. And a year ago went through a very similar, he's a great kid. I love it. I love his family, good people, and we wish him, I mean, there's no issue, nothing happened. He just didn't want to play football anymore.
Rusty.
The fans were obviously very concerned late in the first quarter. Were you concerned at all, or what was running through your mind?
Well, I know that equalizer offense. Once again, they just try to run against our defense. And it would be, but they did a very nice job. They dropped 2 passes. They very well could have been 14-0. But you watch across the country, they got scholarship players too, and they play hard. I know Miami, Ohio, they got a fine coach and a fine staff. And yeah, I was real worried. And then once I started, once we started getting things figured out a little bit on offense, I wasn't as worried because I thought it just matter of taking care of the ball, tackling your receivers.
Far back, Clay.
Following up on Herman, when you talked about him initially, you said he knows what I want. What's his leash right now, and can you see that developing? You say you don't call the play, so he has.
Well, he's the offense coordinator. It's not one of those by title only. He coordinates the offense. The good thing is Ed Warner is coordinator of the offense as well, and the other guys, Zach and Tim Hinton and Stan Drayton are very involved. And they script. I want to make sure that's clear. When in between a series, he's not just calling plays out of right field. We say when we get the ball back, here's what we'd like to go with. And so everybody has their guys ready. That's what they do on the sidelines. They get with the receivers, we're going to run the flood, we're going to run the levels pass, we're going to do this, this, this. And they get it set, and he calls it. And he did a very good job. So he has I'm not sure the leash is the right word, but he's got a lot of freedom to call that game.
Bill up front.
How would you say the staff, now that you have a game under your belt, has meshed? I mean, it's obviously a group, some have been here. You haven't worked with some of them, you have worked with some. How's everything coming together?
Very good, high quality people. We had family day and all of Wyatt. The kids showed up on Thursday to hang out with their players and all the things that I like the coaching staff to do. I'm very impressed with our guys.
How much do you still have questions about everything working together?
Yeah, a lot. And there's no way to test it until those situations occur. We finally hit one. We hit one in the middle of the first quarter where we gave up 2 big plays on defense. You're in reverse on offense. And I didn't feel our quarterback. I was really impressed with Braxton. I've seen players overreact, as coaches overreact, like I was. And he was very good, and I thought Coach Fickle and we did a good job. They did a good job. There'll be many more storms to hit, so the evaluation continues.
Down front, Tim.
Yeah. Urban, how long did it take you to notice that number 35, the Cataline kid, Just what has he kind of brought that
Last
got
time we
everyone's
played
attention?
football was 2000 and what?
Six, wasn't it? Yeah, or five, yeah.
2005. Great story. He was in the Navy, and I love the guy. I mean, we talk about champion effort and you act like a man, get treated like a man. Everybody thinks we talk about the star player. No, it's everybody. It's everything. Everybody has a value to our program. He's got a tremendous value. He got in the game.
Yeah, I know.
And I promised him he would if we could, and he's earned that right. So that's a great story.
Just from a football standpoint, though, is it just his desire? How would you describe
It's what you would imagine. A guy who served in the Navy for a while. It's tough as nails. Is completely committed, incredible discipline, and just goes 100 miles an hour. I wish he was a little more athletic because we'd find a way to get him on the field more. Because he's got some talent and he's tough. Our players love him. You know, he's the only one that will go after Simon's tail now. It's kind of fun to watch.
Far left front, Doug.
Doug Ayers, State Daily News. Urban, I wonder if you evaluate your pass rush. I don't know if Zach was getting it out that quick, but you only had 2 sacks, both of them in the second half.
Yeah, he was getting it out, and Coach Fickle, probably for the right reason, they gave us a new personnel grouping, which happens in the first game. And we just actually met. That's why it's fresh in my mind. That we dropped 8 a lot. The quarterback, I would grade Miami's game plan an A. They said, let's take Hankins out of the game. How do you do that? Throw the ball quick on 3-step drops and roll out. They did a lot. Remember, there was a lot of great contained passing, and that's your defensive tackle is non-existent. You know, when they ran the ball, they didn't run it very far. So they did a good job. And then the second half, I think, when Coach Fickle and we would communicate a little bit, we started getting a little bit ahead of them, and the offense started clicking a little bit, and you become a little more aggressive. But the first quarter, they were out there for 28 plays and gave up 300 yards passing, but 183 in the last 3 quarters, right? Was that right? So almost 200 yards in the first. I mean, it was a tough situation. But I didn't evaluate that they called a poor game at all. Because that situation at that time, so settle down and keep the ball in front of you. And that's kind of what we did.
Far right over here, Dom.
Urban Dumpsterberry, Channel 10. Miami was a good challenge. How much higher does the bar go this week, and how physical do you expect it to be? Because they are pretty physical as well.
Oh, sure. 300, one's 340-pound. Jose, I believe his name is 340-pound defensive tackle against as opposed to 270. So that tells you right there. So we got to get some more no huddle and wear them out. But this is a whole different animal that we're facing. Miami, they're going to make their first downs throwing the ball. This team's going to run the power directly at you and get their first downs. So much different team. They're a very talented team.
Last few questions. Brandon, middle.
Urban right here. I just wanted, you talked about Braxton and how impressed you were with him. How concerned were you with the intentional grounding play where he kind of just threw the ball up and it didn't get called a fumble, obviously, but what were your thoughts there? Did you say anything to Braxton?
Yeah, he's got a little ball security issues, not near as bad as I saw a year ago. Even when he runs, he has a tendency to do this, but we've worked real hard to keep both hands on the ball and certainly lock his elbow. Those are concerns of the young quarterback. Old quarterbacks do the same thing, especially competitors. You know, there were a couple reads too where, the same play most teams in America run, they read the defensive end. He pulled it a couple times when he should have gave it. And so the one thing about this style of offense, every play the quarterback has to make a read. Some offenses, you take a snap, hand the ball to the tailback, and hope things work out well. And we don't have too many of those plays. He has to make a read on every play. So he's going to make a few mistakes.
Middle, Pat.
Pat Brennan with the Lantern. Coach, you mentioned that Devin Smith is obviously a 2-sport athlete. Maybe you missed a few things in the spring. I know that for a 2-sport athlete, that's a tough balancing act for both the player and the 2 programs. Can you shed some light on what that conversation is like with the track team and just helping Devin balance his participation?
Well, I didn't recruit Devin, so a lot of that's done in the recruiting process. When kids ask, you go to kids' home, I want to run track, and then I look at the GPA, I look at everything. Because being a 2-sport athlete, that's why there's not many of them. It's very difficult, and you have to be very blessed and maybe has the ability to do both. So hindsight, did that set him back a little bit? Maybe it did. But once again, I wasn't in the recruiting process, and I don't think it's right or fair right now to say you can't run track. We'll make that decision again in the spring.
Last question front, David.
Hey, Coach, David Wilkson, 10 TV. Braxton said after the game on Saturday just how much you guys worked together to get more comfortable once the struggles were happening in the beginning. How much in one game did you grow more comfortable with him? I mean, can 60 minutes really, how much can that, I guess, take it to the next
Absolutely, great question. Because you can't get that in period number 4 of practices over in Ackerman Field, or you certainly can't get it on a Thursday practice. So that's, you're in combat, you're in the real stuff. And his reaction, my reaction, was very, very positive, and we tremendous, so much more comfortable now than I was going into that game. So it's just going to get better and better. And same with Kenny. Kenny did a really nice job. Braxton cramped up a little bit. Kenny goes right in and made a couple errors, but then also made a couple really nice plays for us.
Are there any other injuries coming?
Any other injuries?
Listen up more.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.